That's kind of a weird down. This is my buddy Mojo, and this is Mojo's roadmap to success. Now, we just got done going outside and working on kind of what I call click for looks, which is basically clicking and rewarding him for looking at another dog. Now, the write-up on my website, the client I worked with this morning, whose post will be right above yours, has a video where I go through this. We did the video on teach your dog to go to the dog bed here, but I'm going to talk about some elements for click for looks or the engage disengage game. So basically, a couple important things. If he reacts, we are too close. Remember, dog training is not linear. So if it's a mellow dog, you might be able to be 20 feet away. If it's an excitable dog, you might have to be 50 feet away. Also be more with your environment. If they're doing edging, leaf blowing, there's a baby crying, there's a dog barking. We filter those things out. The Santa Monica is pretty urban. Those things can contribute a little bit of anxiety. So if you're working on these things, we want to have as calm an environment as possible. So I like to use a park. I would recommend Clover Park. It's a great one. It's pretty close to you guys. It's a big open space. Now, dog park, it's just a regular park, but parks, usually when you get to about 4:30 to 6 o'clock is what I call happy hour. It's when everybody's bringing their dog out. If you can go there in the afternoon, say like 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, you're probably gonna have a lot less dogs there. So at first, we wanna practice when there's less dogs. We'll talk about this in a second. And so that he gets used to it and you're not overwhelmed. And if he barks or freaks out, that means we are too close. So walk him away, walk him around a car or shrubbery, let it calm down. And again, if he's freaking out, you can just give him free treats until you're trying to help him relax a little bit. And then eventually, when he looks at the dog, you click and give him a treat. But if you can find a distance where he's just looking at the dog the whole time, and you just treat when he's walking, as long as he's not freaking out with that dog, you're creating a positive emotional response with the dog, which is what we want to do. This is why we want to correct or punish a dog, because that is not going to stop him from doing what he's doing. But if now every time I see a dog, I get a treat, I start thinking good things about dogs, because all I have to do is look at them. I don't have to smell them. They're not close enough to smell me, that I'm insecure. I don't have to play with them. I don't have to touch them. Yes, you're being very determined. How about a sit? Puppy, puppy, puppy. Beep, 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 beep. Sit. Sit. Oh, I forgot. There's a bag of like collagen sticks. Can you grab me one? They're big brown sticks. And I'll let you chew on this, and hopefully this will get, there's a sticker on it too. Yep, and so take the sticker off that, and then we'll let you chew on a collagen stick. The collagen sticks are much better than rawhides, which are soaked in formaldehyde, bleach, ammonia, a lot of other things. I usually just peel it towards it itself. There you go, just like that, and then slide it through. There you go. All right, so this is a collagen stick. This is from our friends over at Barkworthy's or bestbully.com. So I'm just gonna hold it so he has to stay in the shot and chew on it. And eventually he should lay down and just chew it on it in my hand. So having a handful of these is really helpful. Dogs have feel-good endorphins released when they chew or lick. So if you have a friend come over and he's chewing on this, he's not jumping up on your friend, and he's getting those feel-good endorphins done. How about sit, down? I know it's hard for you to take it when you're sitting. There you go. That's what we're looking for. Good job. I'll hold it for you. Okay. So, all right. So when you're doing the counter conditioning or desensitization, you can just give him treats, free treats, as long as he's not freaking out. If you're doing the click for looks, what it is when he looks at the dog we're clicking, he turns away to get that treat. After a while, I do this like in 2 or 3 minute practice sessions, then walk away, let him catch his breath, come back to practice for another 2-3 minutes. Don't practice too long all at once. This is like being on a roller coaster for him. Even though he's just sitting there, like he's just sitting there the whole time. We're sitting on our butt on a roller coaster. It's a really intense experience for us, and this is a really intense experience. So please don't misinterpret him being not moving as not being intense for him. And also be careful. I don't ask a dog to sit or demand a dog to sit, I should say. I use the sit as a test. If I ask him to sit and he doesn't sit, I walk 5 paces away from whatever it is, and I ask him to sit again. If he doesn't sit that time, walk 5 more paces. I keep on doing that until he'll sit. To me, the more moves the dog has to go into to run tells me how comfortable or not comfortable they are. If I'm standing, that's 1 move, straight into run. If I'm laying on my back, that's like 5 moves. So if you make your dog sit, that puts him in a bit of a disadvantage, and dogs have a fight or flight response. So if you force me to sit, I can't run away. And a dog's walking by, I might think that dog's coming to attack me. I have to lunge to make the dog go away. So I use the sit as just a test and just asking once, and if it doesn't, I move further away. I also use the treats. If a dog will not take a treat that he normally likes, that's an illustration that he has too much cortisol, the stress hormone, in his blood. And that's just like us. We get out on a fast and then we get mugged right before we come home and all our favorite food is on the table. We lost our appetite. Same sort of thing for him. So if he won't take a treat, that's a good indication he's uncomfortable. Before I forget to it, he likes to patrol and look out the windows. We're kind of on a busy street in Santa Monica, high traffic street, I should say. And so he patrols from that window to this window and he looks out of it. So what I would do is get some white paper and cover the bottom portion of the window. Because every time he looks out the window and he barks and the dog leaves, he thinks he made that dog leave. He doesn't realize the dog was walking by. So you cover the bottom portion of the window, we can still see out, it still lets light in. But if he runs to the window and he barks, he doesn't see them go away. So it doesn't reinforce the behavior you don't want. This is probably not ideal to do with a dog that you don't know. I'm pretty comfortable he's not going to chew my hand, but be careful about holding on to this sort of thing, especially if your dog has a resource guarding issue. Yes, you're getting a good chew on that thing. Okay, so I want to talk about dog body language a little bit because it kind of dovetails in what we were talking about when we were just on our walk. So he was pinning his ears back when he was uncomfortable. They were going back and towards the middle. Now, different dogs have different ear shapes. It's different things. For dogs, body language, dogs normally what I call wiggly and jiggly. If you see a dog going from a loose body to a stiff, still body, that's a big warning. Going from an open mouth to... That's a big warning as well. Dropping down, facing another dog. I'm in stealth mode or I'm ready to launch myself at you mode. Also, hard eyes, where the eye is big and wide and not blinking. That's also dogs staring for longer than 5 seconds, usually not a good thing either. When dogs are feeling good, they give you what we call sleepy eyes, kind of squinty. So we see that, you know, you're feeling good. Tail, going straight up is more alerting. Doesn't mean I'm aggressive, but it's more that I feel that way. Now, when you see other dogs, his tail's going to go up. He's probably going to breathe heavy or hold his breath. Those are indicators as well. Is he leaning towards the dog or he's leaning away? Is he barking and then going towards the dog or is he barking and walking away from the dog? So learning how to read his body language is his nose up or down. Nose up is confident, nose down is insecure. Looking at something directly is a challenge. Not looking at something is called avoidance. Yawning can be a way of calming the other dog down or saying I'm a little bit in distress. So what I invite you to do is start learning to read your dog's body language. When he's just chilling at home and there's no stimulus, what are his ears doing? How is he positioning his head? How does his body look? How are his eyes look? And once you know neutral, then you see him on a walk and he's nervous. What's different about his ears? What's different about his tail? About his breathing, his body posture, his lean, his look. So once you start recognizing these things and you can recognize Mojo doesn't feel comfortable because I'm seeing that his hackles are up, his ears are pinned back, he's staring at the other dog, his eyes are hard, and his tail's tucked. I'm interpreting that as he's uncomfortable, so I'm going to walk across the street. If you manage the situation for him, he doesn't have to bark to make the other dog go away. I think he's socially awkward. I just don't, and he probably just wasn't socialized with other puppies when he was young. It's really the name of the game when it comes to dogs. From 3 weeks to 4 months is really going to determine for a great deal. I'd say like 80% of the dog that you're going to have. Genetics certainly plays a part, but what happens in those times is really important. It could be that he just never met any other dogs. Doesn't have to have a bad experience. I just don't understand them, so I feel insecure and I'm going to act aggressive to make them go away. I'll let you have it now. There you go. All right. Now it's going to look like you have a cigar. All right, so learning to read your dog's body language is important. That's one of the reasons why we went over cutoff signals. I have a video for that one, but cutoff signals for dogs include lowering the head, turning away, refusing to come to you, looking at you from a lot of the side eye with a lot of that white. Sometimes they'll roll over their belly like, please don't pick me up, and we pick them up anyways. So freezing can be an indication he feels uncomfortable. So if you see him, if you're messing with his paw and he pulls his paw back, that's a cutoff signal as well. So when people want to pet him, if they do want to pet him, and you feel comfortable letting him pet, you use your instincts for a reason. We have them for a reason. But if you feel comfortable, have it say, can I meet your dog? He says, it's a beautiful dog. He looks like my boxer. Yeah, we just ask people to hold their hand out to make sure he wants to be petted. How does he tell you that? Well, if he touches your hand. He touched my hand. Oh, then pet him under his chin. He likes it under his chin. Remember, petting on top of the head is something that you really don't want to do when you're first meeting a dog for the first time. So if you just tell people, hold their hand out, and he touches them, and you say pet on the chin, now Mojo's like, everybody pets me in the places I like. I don't have a reason to feel uncomfortable meeting new people. So best place to pet is under the chin, on the chest, or on either shoulder. Now you can pet your dog anywhere, you just don't want to initiate contact petting over here. The body mechanic of a proud dog is nose up, insecure dog is nose down, petting here creates nose down, petting here creates nose up. So now if you run into somebody and they're like, like this, and he turns his head the way, he doesn't want to meet him. He doesn't want them petting him, and that's his prerogative, okay, and your job to make sure that doesn't happen. So if that's the case, lead him, oh, I'm sorry, he's having an off day, and just walk away. Don't worry about your a little bit rude social graces. Your job is to make sure that he doesn't feel the need to it. He doesn't do it for people, but what he's doing with dogs is he's trying to make the dogs go away. Well, people constantly pet him on top of the head. A lot of dogs nip one time, and the person walks away, oh, shoot. So you don't want people to pet you on top of the head, just nip them, they'll go away. We don't like that. So instead, tell them where to go underneath. And again, if he turns his head aside, just make him a benign excuse or go away, or you can say the ringworm thing that I told you about if you really have somebody who's persistent. But if your dog has ringworm, you should not take it out. It's highly contagious. Okay, so we started off the session by going over marker words. The Guardian here had used marker word before, but hadn't used it for a while, or used a clicker. And so we went over marker word loading and clicker loading. So I'd like them each to do that about 3 times with each one. So click, treat, walk a couple steps, click, treat. So walk around the house for about 15, 20 treats and wait at least a half an hour to an hour later, then somebody else does it. So if you're doing clicks, you just click and treat, click and treat, click and treat. And then click first, treat second, not at the same time. And then later on you can say yes and treat, yes and treat. You don't ever say yes as you deliver a treat or click as you deliver the treat. And yes and the clicker are the same thing. The only difference is the clicker is more distinctive, and I would use that when you're out on walks and working with dogs because it's going to work a little bit better than the marker word. Now, the marker word is great as well, and we can use that when the dog does things we want. So if he sits down, as soon as his butt hits around, yes, we pet him under the chin. He lays down, yes, we pet him. He gives us eye contact, yes. I call this celebrating. So every time that Mojo does something that we want, that we don't ask for, we say the marker word and we pet him. It'll take you about 3 or 4 months to get a habit of it, but eventually Mojo walks up to you, you're like, yes, and you continue having your conversation. You don't even realize you're doing it, but every time you do that, you're training Mojo that sitting is a great thing to do. Coming is a great thing. It'll get rewarded. Laying down will get me a reward. Looking in the eyes will get me a reward. Going to Sacktown will get me the reward. Most of us focus on correcting the dog for what we don't want, but that doesn't tell them what we do want. It's much more efficient and productive and healthier for your leader-follower dynamic to communicate to the dog like we did in the video above of going to the dog bed gets you a reward as opposed to running all over the place. So celebrate is a word I invite the guardians to say to each other. So if somebody says celebrate to me, I just say yes and pet the dog on the chin. I don't need to know what it is. I usually celebrate with a pet instead of a treat. You can do it with treats too, but it's a pretty high payment for a low item. But it only works if you get in the habit of it. So if somebody says celebrate, just pet each other, pet the dog. Now, if he comes up and he's a part boxer, he's pawing at you for attention, you say, hey man, give me some attention. Never wrong to pet a dog. But whatever the dog's doing before you pet them is what you're rewarding them for. So if you like the dog doing this, go ahead and pet your dog. Or yell at, no, don't do that. All attention is rewarding for dogs. So don't get the trash is like, here's a treat for getting into the trash. So I'll go get in the trash to get your attention. So instead, we went over the positive interrupter, which we'll talk about in a sec. But celebrating is rewarding him when he voluntarily does things that we like. Manners is the other side of that coin. So he comes up and he's pawing at me attention. He's saying, hey man, give me some attention. I'm going to say sit. If he sits within 3 seconds, that's the only time I say it, I say yes, and I pet him. If he's already sitting here, I say, just come and sit over here. So when he demands attention, I'm going to give him a do-over. Ask him to sit or lie down. Don't ask him for a shake. And if he does it, you say yes and pet him. If he doesn't do it, playing hard to get works great for dog training as well as it does for dating. So just you go back to doing what you're doing. And now he's missing out. Remember, half of how dogs learn is not doing what we want or making a mistake and not being rewarded. We're not going to punish him. I don't believe in punishment for dogs. It doesn't work very well. But not rewarding him when he doesn't do what you don't want motivates him to want to do it the next time. All right, so manners is the word I say to each other. So if Mojo's on top of me and I'm petting him while I'm watching TV and somebody says manners, I would stop petting, say, Mojo, sit. He sits, yes, I pet him on the chin and say, actually I asked him to sit. I asked him to jump up on my lap and I was petting him, but thanks, I do forget to teach him to have good manners. And this will eventually teach, both these lessons will eventually teach him, he'll just come and start sitting in front of you because that's what gets your attention. If you don't pet him, he'll resit and resit and resit, but that's teaching him good manners, just like a child was saying. I was at a friend of mine's house and a child came up and said, excuse me, and I kind of stopped for a minute, but my buddy wanted to make a point that he couldn't interrupt. And so we kept on talking, and the kid kept on saying, excuse me, and finally he said, no, I told you not to interrupt. But I'm like, dude, he said excuse me like 7 times. That's polite. Now he's going on the more advanced lesson, which is fine, but rewarding and teaching the dog, and in this case his kid, how to interact, he's like, well, you should wait until the adults are done talking, then say excuse me. So he would a compound lesson. But for dogs, the more that we teach them manners, when they paw at us, we tell them to sit, and if they do what we want, they get a reward. If they do it on their own, they get a reward. After a while, we're petting our dogs for doing the things we want, and it makes it easy for him to know, because we're using that marker word. All right, we also, let me see, we talked about, I guess I went over cutoff signals already. We went over creative forms of exercise for dogs. Getting a doggy backpack, carrying weight on the walks makes the walk more efficient. Just make sure it's a good backpack. Don't go too crazy and get an REI one. But they're like about 60 to 80 bucks. We can put bottles of water in it. Now he's carrying weight. That makes the walk a little bit more efficient. Playing tug of war is a great way to burn energy. But again, once he gets to level 5, 50% of his energy range, I drop the leash or the object. I wait for him to calm down. When he calms down to level 2, they say, go, or whatever the word is, take, and then we play tug of war again. If he ever touches you with his teeth, drop it and the game's over. That's a great way to teach him bite inhibition. It's a little bit late for him to learn this, but it just is a good way for you. As soon as you touch me with your teeth, it's over. Dogs are very precise with their teeth, so we wanted to let them know you should not put your teeth on people. Let me see. I also showed the video of dog skiing, which is what I love to do. So one of the guardians here skateboards. So we'd have to work on the skateboarding thing, and I'll talk about that here in a sec. But eventually putting him on a harness, now there are special harnesses for dog skiing. It's called skidjourning or something like that. Dog skiing sounds better to me. Let me know, and the ones I get are from Rough Wear, R-U-F-F Wear. And so it disperses the weight better. But I had Quest run me on the beach from here to Chautauqua, then all the way back to Venice, and then back to Chautauqua, and then back. And I go to my friend's house, and I'm like, is this the most chill Dalmatian ever? No, I set him up for success. I exercised him properly. Just make sure after exercise he has at least 10 minutes to recover. I'll come back to the skateboard thing in a second. But basically, other things we could do is playing fetch and adding structure to fetch. So I say sit, he sits. As soon as he sits, I say yes, then I throw the object as I say fetch. When he goes and picks up the object, I quietly have a treat ready. When he comes to me, I hold the treat out. When he either arrives or drops it, I say yes and put the treat in his mouth. Then I tell him to sit, pick it up. If he gets back up, sit. And I wait for him as soon as he sits down. Sometimes I'll kind of slowly sit. As soon as the butt hits around, yes, and I throw the treat or the object. So eventually we're adding in a little bit of structure to the game of fetch. And fetch is a wonderful way to burn energy. So those are physical forms of exercise. There's also mental stimulation. Training is a great way to burn energy. So we went over a couple lessons here, teaching him hand targeting, cookie in the corner, whatever it is. Remember, training should be about 2 to 3 minutes maximum. So if we are teaching him bang, you're dead, and we practice that for 2 minutes at a time, 3 or 4 times a day, that's like 8 to 10 minutes of practice. But we're sprinkling out throughout the day. It's better for his memory. He'll learn it a little bit faster. And it's kind of a nice way to moderate that energy. Instead of going for one long walk, we do a short walk, and then an hour later we do a little training. We also could feed him out of a snuffle mat. So he's working for his food. It slows down his speeding, the speed that he eats, which is better for him. And it also makes him use his nose. So feeding out a snuffle mat is like a short walk. So we feed him twice a day out of a snuffle mat, and we take him out for maybe 2 walks a day. And we do 4 training exercises sprinkled throughout the day. He's going to be set up for success. Now, if you're going to go out for a walk, maybe you exercise him a little bit first. But you have to find the Goldilocks amount. If you exercise him too much, he's not going to perform well. So maybe he plays 7 fetches, then we give him, and after exercise, they always need about 10, 15 minutes to recover with you just sitting and chilling. Then after he recovers, then we put his leash and harness on, and we go out for a little bit of a walk, and we work on the engage-disengage game. We took off that top level of energy so he's able to focus a little bit better. All right, for the skateboards. So what I would do for skateboards is I like to break things into individual senses. So what I would do is I would, you could probably use a skateboard and have somebody right where you're sitting right now. Funny, I have the same socks. And so I would basically hit the truck so it makes that sound, and then somebody's giving him a treat while he hears it. Or you could have your phone out and just be skateboarding a little bit so you hear all the truck movements and the wheels rolling and the skidding and all that, and you're recording the audio of it. Then you could just play it at a low volume while he's eating his food. So he's hearing this, but if he stops eating his food, you're playing it too loud. So maybe we're playing at level 3 volume on the phone. And after a while, he just seems to be okay with it, and then we go to level 5, level 7, level 10. Eventually, it's going through speakers. It sounds like you have Tony Hawk in your living room, and he's like, whatever, man, yawn. It's a sound that I have been desensitized or counter-conditioned. So, and the next thing I would do is I would roll the skateboard with nobody on it. Roll it, and then give him a treat. Roll it back, give him a treat. And if he gets up and he won't take the treat, he's too close to it. Move him further away. So maybe you're right over, he's sitting over here, and you're rolling it, kind of move that plant. You're on the far side of where that area rug is on your kitchen table. So he hears it and sees it move. Careful. He hears it and sees it move, and then he gets a treat afterwards. So hearing the skateboard gets me a treat. Seeing the skateboard move gets me a treat. And there's nobody on it. Then eventually we have the guardian on it, and he very slowly rolls that way. And then somebody here gives him a treat. And he slowly rolls that way. And gradually he's doing as fast as he can, and Mojo's like, whatever. Then we can either move Mojo one step closer or move the skateboard one step closer. And then I go back to slow. We move the skateboard very slowly, he gets a treat. Slowly gets a treat. Gradually we're going faster and faster. When he goes fast we can, and he's comfortable, then we move another foot closer. So we're gradually going to collapse that distance. But remember, it's not a linear process. So one day he was like at 10 feet. Next day you go to 9 feet, and he freaks out. You go to 10 feet, he still freaks out. 11 feet, you got to go to 15 feet. That's okay. It's going to be a process. But if you do this consistently, trying to do maybe twice a day, 3 times a day, after a while it just becomes accustomed to it, relaxed, conditioned not to freak out. And he's watching a skateboard go and not freaking out. Now, if you can find, there's the skate park, skateboard down in Venice. It's kind of the beach and it's a little bit busy, but there are areas you can move a little bit further away. But if you can find another skate park that's in like a bowl that has like grass around it, would be ideal. You know, the beach is kind of busy. There's crazy people and all of it. Stuff in Venice Beach, you know how it is. But picking and choosing your battles. Going to the skate park when maybe there's only 2 or 3 guys there because it's 10 in the morning and skateboarders are all stoned and sleeping in. Yes. And so then you go in, there's one kid learning to skate, that's going to be a lot easier for him. And it's got 18 kids doing tricks and trucks, that's a lot more complex. Like we showed you with the dog bed, breaking down to small steps and making it easier is key. All right, I talked about the paper right there, right, on this video? Yes. All right, okay, so let me see. So come up with a routine so you can get them physical exercise, mental stimulation, and kind of alternate that throughout the day. And also use that if you have a guest coming over, get them a little exercise before a guest comes over. When we were out and about, we saw a dog that was across the street that guardians are going to hear me, and I gave them some pointers. Like if somebody wants to meet their dog, I would say have them turn themselves sideways to the dog. If you can get them to crouch down, that's better. And when I offer a treat, I offer it like this. Front facing is confrontational for dogs and staring in the eyes and then reaching over them. It's all stuff that we do. So if I meet a dog that's fearful, I kind of stop at a distance, I crouch down, and I let that dog come to me versus me going to the dog. When I go to the dog, I'm kind of cornering it. When the dog chooses to come to me, I know that I have the dog's consent. And I've seen people like, no, you can pet him, and they're dragging it. No, please, it's okay. I don't need to meet your dog. He's a good-looking dog. Keep having your walk. But a lot of people just think the social pressure, like everybody has to pet Mojo. Mojo doesn't want to be met, and you don't force him to do that, then he feels more confident in you. All right, I'm trying to think what else that we covered. I think we pretty much covered everything else. Anything else you want me to talk about?
The only thing is I'm assuming we should not be resuming off-leash activities for now that he was doing, like at the beach or the park.
Well, yeah, you have to be careful because, if he's some dogs don't like the leash because the leash restricts their movement. And a lot of people keep the leash too short. So it's like if I tell you, I want you to tell me about your day today, but don't use any 4-letter words. Not curse words, just words with 4 letters. Well, come, I can't say that. Dave, I can't. So it's a very frustrating way to communicate. And when dogs are being restrained, it takes away a lot of their communication method. So if you can have him off leash, I'm not the Humane Society. I'm not. My whole thing is you shouldn't have your dog off leash unless you have good verbal control of your dog. What if some guy comes and he has a little willy, and so he's got a really loud car, and he startles your dog and it runs off, and now it's confused. It doesn't know where it is. So you have to kind of pick and choose your battles. I wouldn't say yes or no. I have 2 dogs right now. One of them I let off leash. I can walk in a school off leash. I do, and she just stays with me. She's my bulletproof dog. I know she's never going to do anything. Another dog, I don't trust him. And it's not that he's a bad dog. I just don't trust him in that scenario because he doesn't have good verbal control. So it's based on the dog. But the idea is, like I said, as much as you can. Yeah, good job of that. So try the puppy 3 times.
Puppy, puppy, puppy.
There you go, and chop your hand.
Puppy, puppy, puppy.
Let's try the beep.
Puppy, puppy, puppy.
Beep, beep, beep. Really high pitched beeps. Beep. There you go. Yes.
Yes.
And so now at that point you need to give him, he's like, but there's more collagen sticks. Collagen sticks are great for dogs to chew on. There are the skin under the skin. Bully sticks are parts of bull penis. Kind of gross, but dogs like those. One of my dog's favorites is a kneecap, a cow kneecap. That's good for like about 10 or 12 chews. At first they'll chew all the nasty stuff off of the flesh, then they start just gnawing on its cartilage. Eventually you get a bone that looks like the end of a spoon, and it's kind of a crappy bone, I whole poor, so I throw it away. But chewing allows the dog to release those feel-good endorphins. Also, you might get them a lick mat. Lick mats are great things for dogs to chew, lick as well. All right, anything else?
Yeah.
Make a list of the official command cues and say vocabulary to each other. I'm like, Mojo, come here. And the words come, they're like vocabulary, like, oh, that's right. Here. Yes. All right, sit. This is my buddy Mojo, and this is Mojo's roadmap to success. Mojo. Hey, Mojo. Come here. Let's sign off properly. Come here. Come here. Sit. This is Mojo, and this is Mojo's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it. You did good, Mojo.